Hello and welcome to another episode of Blue Alpine TV. In today's episode, we'll talk about the general sentiment of the market. We'll talk about why we're still years away from crypto adoption, and we'll talk about why Turkey should maybe start dealing with Bitcoin. First of all, guys, sorry for being quiet for a couple of days, if not weeks. I was trying to kind of find a bit of a better schedule with like focusing on Blue Alpine research, like the actual research, and on the other side the videos as well. New schedule will be Tuesdays, Thursdays, and one video on the weekend, so 3 videos per week depending on the analysis that I will do on the weekend. It will be either Saturday or Sunday, but that will probably settle soon. And then in September I'll be gone for 2 or 3 weeks, probably in China, and we'll report back obviously from China as well. And then once like end of September, we'll get back to a more regular schedule. So that's kind of as a heads up. Now, since we've last talked, a lot of things happened, but not really. I mean, we still are at the same level, if you will, in terms of Bitcoin level. We have made a quick jump up until close to 8,000, then came back a bit. Everyone was talking about now it's finally over, yet we're still again in the red numbers. And the question is, how much longer will this continue? Should you invest now? Should you wait a bit longer? As you know, we at Blue Alpine Research, we recommend that you do your due diligence. You should do fundamental research before investing into any type of coin. And this is just price action. You shouldn't invest into price action. You should invest into the fundamentals of a coin. That being said, one tweet that I have found here from Crypto Yoda is, it is said that the darkest hour of the night comes just before the dawn. Are we witnessing capitulation right here? Literally, you can see only red in this chart. For the podcast listeners, we're looking at the graphic in terms of split all the cryptocurrencies. I'm guessing it's the top 100, if not more, in terms of sell sizes. The bigger the kind of market capitalization, the bigger the sell size, with Bitcoin obviously being the biggest, and Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, Ripple, Litecoin, Stellar, and so on. Everything is in the red, ranging from 1% up until 20-30%. And the question is this it? Could very well be. Could be that we're even correcting a bit longer towards lower prices. Nobody really knows. What I think was a really interesting segment here was with CNBC. I think it's CNBC Money. Melton Demiros, who is the chief strategy officer, as far as I know, from CoinShare, which is dealing with a bit of research, a bit of exchange traded products, has given a very interesting interview. It's, I think, close to 4 minutes, where she talks about essentially that we are too focused on the price, and we should be more focused on the more long-term ideas of cryptocurrencies. When we look at the different kind of evolution steps of all of these big stocks, I mean, if we compare them to the, let's say, the big stocks of the beginning of the 2000s or the big technology companies, then there is still a long way to go. She's actually elaborated a little bit in her tweets after this CNBC segment. So it starts here. I will link this up. And she kind of elaborates here a bit, explaining with Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, and all of these companies, and why it's so important to kind of be patient and give those companies time, because this is such a big change, such a deep, in-depth change of how we're dealing with money, how we're dealing with equity, how we're dealing with all of these coins, tokens, securities, if you will. And this just takes time. It's nothing that will happen by tomorrow. And she's also saying at the same time, we will need some companies that go bust, like pets.com, Webvan in the 2000s, huge internet companies that had triple, like huge in the millions of venture capital funding, and they weren't really able to capitalize on that and ultimately went bust. We'll probably see something similar in the crypto world as well. Obviously the scams are one huge part, but there will be also legit companies that just won't make it work. Now, the other problem that she talks about, or kind of the idea that she is mentioning as well, as the token financing. Where exactly should you kind of put it on the balance sheet if you have tokens? Is it debt? She's saying it's not debt, it's not equity. where does it exactly go, and all of these things. So definitely check out the tweet storm, check out the interview. That was quite an interesting story. Next up, something that got shared in the German Telegram group. As you know, I've started a Telegram group where you can also kind of participate. If you're German speaking, definitely make sure to join that. I'll probably open an English speaking channel as well, or group rather. And here, one link that was shared is interesting. A 42% traffic increase to bitcoin.org as lira hurtles downward. Obviously, it's talking about the Turkish lira, which has had a really rough couple of days, going up to 7 US dollars or euro equivalent, which is a huge thing. I mean, the lira ended 6.6% lower at 6.88 against the US dollar on Monday, after falling as much as 10% in Asian morning trading. The country's debt and stock markets were also swept up in the turmoil. Now, obviously, you would expect that a country that is struggling with its kind of native currency to go towards cryptocurrency, right? That's exactly what the headline is. Everyone is going onto Bitcoin.org, is kind of informing themselves and then buying Bitcoin. We're going up, and the bull market returns. If it were that easy, I guess we would have experienced that way more before, essentially because of Venezuela. Venezuela was in a very similar situation and is now in a much worse situation, at least economically. The so-called Bolivar, the currency of Venezuela, has lost a lot in value. I think I even read like something like 20,000% compared to the US dollar. So that's pretty crazy if you think about it. Yet we don't see a lot of kind of not traction, but adoption in towards Bitcoin. Yes, we do see some different coins getting traded and some people actually using it for daily exchange, yet it hasn't kind of adopted in a way, it hasn't been adopted in a way that it would use it, that people would use as a daily payment. Now, is it just because people don't want to use it? No, I don't think so. There is definitely some political aspects to that, so I wouldn't count this out. A similar case would happen in Turkey, I guess. So obviously, as a Turkish government wants to kind of control the economy, they wouldn't want people to exchange their Turkish lira for Bitcoin and then kind of get away from the monetary system that the government relies on. That being said, what was quite interesting, I found a site called CoinDance, which shows you the local Bitcoin's volume chart. And if you see here, you have the global, you have the different countries, and that's quite interesting to see whether there is a kind of upwards trend or downwards trend. And if we look at Turkey, to be honest, there is not much different from the last couple of days or weeks. Now, this is done weekly, so it will be interesting to kind of see how it looks coming Monday, guessing that it will be updated on Mondays, and whether this is going towards like more trading volume. Because if we can see this, I think that's the essential part. We have to understand how much higher the trading volume in Turkey is versus in different countries in order to also see that there is an interest in Turkish citizens to kind of use Bitcoin. Now, in order for this to happen, obviously a bunch of things need to happen. And one of the major things, in my opinion, is just the education. There needs to be a certain aspect of education for people that don't know about cryptocurrency, don't know about Bitcoin, don't know how exactly it's working. It's still way too complicated. It's way too difficult for this to become a mass adopted currency. And that's exactly my point. Now, yes, of course, if there is a certain aspect of inflation happening in a country, the currency loses value, yes, of course, but at the same time, what is the alternative? People in Turkey still rely on the Turkish lira, so they have to use Turkish lira. Unless they know and understand and can use the alternative, there won't be an alternative. Now, foreign currency is too expensive and won't be accepted everywhere. In Venezuela, that's actually the case. So if you can pay with US dollar, it's valued higher than the Bolivar. Maybe something like this will happen in Turkey. I guess we don't know. But in the end, before you kind of read these headlines and say, oh yeah, great, Turkey will adopt Bitcoin, it's not that easy. It will take a bit of time. That brings me back to kind of Meltem's points as well in this interview. So make sure to listen to that interview. And yeah, keep your head up. The red numbers shouldn't phase you if you've done your research. So keep your head up. Now, next video, I will see you guys on Thursday. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye bye.